Goals for today's presentation are to review some of the top soybean diseases that cause yield loss in Northwest Iowa, understand the key components of each disease, and discuss prevention strategies you can use against the diseases. The first disease we will be talking about today is called sudden death syndrome, otherwise known as SDS. SDS is primarily a root disease, but typically also affects the leaves and causes defoliation. SDS is a fungal infection that can cause severe yield loss in your field. SDS can cause yield loss from anywhere to a few percent up to 100%. The leaves of the infected plant show yellow between the leaf veins. SDS is caused by the soil-borne fungus called Fusarium solani. Fusarium solani can be found in nearly every soybean field, and it regularly infects the lateral roots of the soybean plants, but is not an aggressive pathogen in most situations. The early symptoms of SDS. The symptoms of SDS usually don't develop until late July or in August. The intermediate symptoms of SDS. The leaves of the infected plant show yellow between the leaf veins, and the leaf symptoms often begin scattered yellow pink spots between the veins. You can see here, those are the yellow spots between the veins. The leaves and the spots typically expand between the leaves, become round lesions surrounded by chlorotic areas, and the leaves may be cupped or curled. Here's a picture of the leaf that's cupped. The root symptoms of SDS. SDS causes root rot. The pith of the infected plants are white, which is different from that of brown stem rot, which we'll be talking about later. And sometimes, if the soil moisture is high enough, blue fungal colonies can be found on the roots. When does infection occur? Root infection can happen within days of planting and is favored by high soil moisture and cool temps. SDS often occurs in fields infested with the soybean cyst nematode. The fungus survives in infested crop residue or in the soil for several years. Here's a picture of a field infested with SDS, and you can't really see it here, but in this area right here, it's a yellow color, and you see that, you can, as I was driving down here, we saw a lot of that in the fields and the edges of the fields. Here's another field with SDS, you can kind of see it a little bit better, but it's kind of really much. And then this is a plant, and the roots and the leaves of it. Prevention of SDS. To prevent SDS, you can do several things. First, plant type of soybeans that are resistant to SDS. Then you can reduce your soil compaction. You can rotate your crops. You can delay the planting date by a week or two due to the fact that SDS prefers cooler temperatures. And you can make sure your field is properly drained. The second disease we'll be talking about today is called brown stem rot, otherwise known as BSR. BSR causes a browning of vascular and tissues. It also causes foliar damage, similar to that of SDS. Estimated yield loss from BSR has ranged from 9 to 44% for individual fields, depending on environmental conditions, the variety used, and the severity of the disease. The stem systems occur prior to that of the leaf systems. Externally, the plant stems look healthy, but when split, internal browning of vascular tissue and pith is noticeable. BSR is most severe when the temperatures are cold and soil moisture is present, like SDS. BSR is caused by the fungus Phyllophora gregae. The fungus enters through the roots, and the fungus can reproduce throughout the winter. This is a picture of the field with BSR, and here's the leaf. It looks similar to that. It looks similar to the leaf of the SDS. So these two diseases can be confused, if not exactly close. When does infection occur? Disease development is greatest between 59 to 81 degrees Fahrenheit. As the temperatures approach 81 degrees vascular grounding is reduced, and a little or no disease develops about 90 degrees Fahrenheit. The lead symptoms of BSR. They're similar to that of SDS. The infected plants do not show leaf symptoms before reproductive stage 3. And this is followed by leaf wilting and fruiting. The root and stem systems are represented. Although both stem and foliar symptoms are caused by BSR, discoloration of the pit tissue is its characteristic symptom, which tells it apart from SDS. The height of the internal stem discoloration is a measurement of severity, and the stem systems are proprietary to these. Prevention of BSR. Soybean varieties resistant to BSR are the most economical means to reduce yield loss associated with disease. And another health prevention method is crop rotation. Third disease we will be talking about is phytophthora stem and root rot. A well-known fungal disease that occurs from seedling to maturity. It causes stem and root rot, but also affects the leaves of the plant. It is most common in poorly germinated parts of the field. Phytophthora stem and root rot. Early season symptoms are seed rot and pre- and post-emerging spotting out. The most characteristic symptom though is a dark brown lesion on the lower stem of the plant. The lesion often reaches as high as several nodes and will stunt or kill the plant. This is a picture of the brown lesion on the lower stem I was talking about. This is a picture of the field that has phytophthora stem. When does infection occur? Phytophthora stem and root rot needs 2 periods of saturation to occur. The first saturation period develops the infective spores, and the second saturation period is when the actual infection occurs. Prevention of phytophthora stem and root rot. Phytophthora stem and root rot is best prevented by planting resistant varieties, and most varieties in Iowa have some form of resistance to it because of its severity in the past. And crop rotation is also a good preventer of phytophthora stem and root rot. The last disease we will be talking about today is frog-eye leaf spot. Frog-eye leaf spot causes small lesions to appear on the leaves. It affects the leaves in 2 different ways. It can spread to the stems and the pods of the soybean plant, and the fungus also infects the seeds. Early season infections can contribute to the infection of foliage and pods later in the season. The lesions are not seen on the young leaves because they take 2 weeks to develop after the infection. The fungus that infects the crop is called Cerospora sogina, and it is especially problematic in continuous soybean fields. The leaves. The lesions on the leaves are small and gray with reddish-brown borders. They can cause premature leaf drop. The lesions take about 2 weeks to form on the leaves. Other symptoms of frog-eye leaf spot. Early season infections from the infected seeds result in stunted seedlings, and early season infections contribute to infection of foliage and pods late in the season. When does infection occur? It is common in soybean fields in late summer and infects the upper leaves in mid to late August. Prevention of frog-eye leaf spot. Planting resistant varieties is the most effective way to prevent it. Use resistant varieties if the field has a history of the disease, and crop rotation will also help prevent the disease. So, in summary, we have covered the top soybean diseases in Northwest Iowa. We have discussed the main components of each disease, and we have learned management procedures. The management procedure for every disease is variety selection. So we can safely say that variety selection is the most common and for most of the diseases the best form of prevention. So, to prevent soybean sicknesses from being stunting your success, choose your variety carefully. Here are the resources I used for this presentation. And do you have any questions?
got you interested in learning more about soybean disease?
The question was what got me interested in learning about soybean diseases. Well, my dad is an agronomist, and so I kind of grown up learning about it and stuff from small tidbits. And I've been hearing about diseases since I was little, so I kind of was wondering like what they meant, what they were. Just are there any other questions? Yes. What did you say, sir?
Row spacing. Row spacing of why you plant the rows or not.
The question was row spacing. Does that have any effect on diseases? Not that I know of, but in my research that I seen. Any other questions? This